100 feet down, off the coast of Nigeria, a diver moves through total darkness inside a tugboat lying upside down on the seabed. It is May 2013. He has been sent to do a grim job, recover a drowned crew. 12 men went down with this tug, and every one of them is presumed dead. The water is black and cold. His lamp catches tangled steel hanging where the floor should be. A drifting boot. A wallet turning slowly in the current. Then the pale, swollen shape of a corpse pressed against the ceiling that used to be the floor. He pushes his glove into a flooded cabin, feeling blind for a body to drag out. His fingers find something soft. Then, something closes around his wrist. A hand. It grips back. He screams into his helmet because the dead do not grab the living. But the man whose corpse he came to collect has been breathing down here for nearly 60 hours. His name is Harrison Okene. He is 29 years old, the ship's cook, the lowest-ranking man on the manifest. And while 11 trained sailors drowned around him, the cook refused to die. How does a cook outlast every trained sailor in 2.5 days sealed on the floor of the ocean? And why had the entire world above already buried him? Around 5 in the morning, the Atlantic is still black. The tugboat Sunken 4 works a heavy swell off the Niger Delta, a squat steel vessel pitching in the dark while most of her 12-man crew sleep in their bunks. Harrison Okene is already awake. He is the cook, 29 years old, married not long before he sailed, the lowest name on the manifest. He is always the first one up, the man with the kettle on before the deckhand's boots hit the floor, and he knows these 11 the way a cook does, their faces, their habits, which of them likes his food, and which only puts up with it. Right now, he is in the bathroom, in nothing but his boxer shorts, one hand braced on the wall as the ship rolls under his feet. Then it rolls, and it does not come back. A wave catches the Sunken 4 broadside, and the whole world tips past the point of return. The floor becomes a wall. The wall becomes the ceiling. Okene is thrown off his feet as the sea finds every open hatch at once and pours in. A black wall of water shouldering down the corridors with a roar he feels in his chest. He fights toward a surface that isn't there. Up is gone, down is gone, and in the churn he sees them. Crewmates, men he was feeding hours ago, caught in the same flood. 3 of them sweep past him in the dark, arms reaching, gone before he can close a hand on a single one. Then the flood comes for him. There's no time to grieve them, no time to think at all. Okene claws through a doorway on pure animal instinct into a cabin, and his head breaks the surface of a small pocket of trapped air. He gasps, he breathes, he drags the air down in huge ragged pulls, shaking, alive, certain in that first half second that the worst is behind him. The relief is a lie, because the Sunken 4 is not done falling. She is filling, growing heavier by the second, and she goes down stern first, slow and final, dragging Okene with her into the deep. He feels it in his ears, the pressure building, the cold thickening down and down, until the hull strikes bottom with a long groan of steel that shudders through his teeth. Somewhere far above, dawn is breaking on an ordinary sea. Down here there is no dawn. There is only the dark closing over the wreck, and the weight of the whole Atlantic settling onto the steel. 100 feet down, upside down, the wreck sinks into the seabed mud, and the surface, the open air, the daylight world, seals shut above him like a lid on a coffin. 11 men are dead or drowning in the flooded compartments around him. Harrison Okene is alive, half naked, shaking with cold, sealed inside a steel tomb on the floor of the ocean. The pocket of air he just thanked God for will keep him breathing far longer than anyone topside could believe, and breath by breath, it is already turning into the thing that will try to kill him. Where Harrison Okene is trying to stay alive, it is completely dark, the kind of dark that presses on open eyes and gives them nothing back. He is roughly 30 meters down, 100 feet of cold ocean stacked on the steel above his head. The cabin he fell into is upside down, so the air he is breathing is trapped against what used to be the floor. By his own reckoning later, the pocket is maybe 4 feet high. A column of breathable air the size of a shower stall, holding back an entire sea. And he is in his underwear. The cold comes for him first. The water is not Arctic, but water steals warmth from a body around 25 times faster than air does, and given hours, then days, even cool water drags a man down into hypothermia. His teeth chatter. His hands stiffen and go pale. In the dark, he gathers what floats, paneling, a sodden mattress, and builds a perch to haul his body partway clear of the water. Cold like this kills in stages. First the feeling in the fingers, then the strength in the limbs, then the will to move at all. He waits for the sea to rise and finish what the capsize started. It doesn't. This is the first impossible thing about Harrison Okene's survival. By every instinct, sinking should have drowned him. Deeper means more pressure, more ocean forcing its way in. But the deep played a stranger trick in his favor. As the wreck sank, that same pressure squeezed his pocket of air tighter and tighter, and squeezing air does something odd. It packs more oxygen into every breath. It is the contents of a whole room crammed into a single closet, same air concentrated. At that depth, every lungful Okene takes carries roughly 4 times the oxygen it would have held at the surface. The depth that should have killed him is the only reason he can keep breathing. He doesn't know any of this. He only knows he is still here, still drawing breath, when by every right he should be one more body in the flood. So he prays, out loud, the same words over and over. Before he sailed, his wife had typed a psalm onto his phone, and now he says it into the dark, like a man gripping a rope. "O God, by your name, save me by your strength." He says it to hear a human voice, even if the only one left to answer is his own. Time comes apart almost at once. No light, no watch, no way to tell morning from night. Only the dark and the sound of his own breathing. He has no idea whether minutes are passing or hours, or whether anyone above even knows the ship is gone. He is a man erased from the world, holding his place in it with nothing but a column of air and the stubborn fact that his heart keeps beating. And then the dark changes. It isn't a sound exactly. It's a sense. A shift in the water against his skin. Something is moving in the cabin with him, slow and heavy, drifting close and then away again in the flooded black. He goes rigid. He holds his breath and listens past the groan of the settling hull and the slap of water on steel, and underneath all of it, there it is again, a presence. He is not alone down here. Something shares the dark with him, and 100 feet down, with no light and no way to reach it, how is he ever to know what it is? Then he understands what is sharing the dark with him. The thing drifting against him is not the ship shifting on the mud. It is a man, one of his crewmates, dead, carried on the slow currents inside the flooded hull, brought close and then drawn away. And it isn't only one. They are all still here with him, the men he cooked for, the men who drowned while he found his pocket of air. He is sealed in a tomb, and he is not the only one in it. Then it gets worse. In the silence between his own breaths, he begins to hear it. A soft, busy stirring in the water around the bodies, and he can smell it, even in that foul air. Fish. The sea has already found his crew, and the sea is feeding. He sits on his perch and listens to the ocean take apart the men he knew. When his own strength finally gives out, he will be next, and the busy sounds in the dark spell out exactly what being next will mean. There is no lower place a man can be and still be breathing. His body is failing in small ways he can feel even without light. The salt water has wrinkled and bleached his hands and feet to a dead pale. His tongue is thick and dry, a special cruelty to be wrapped in a whole ocean and dying of thirst. He takes the smallest sips of whatever clean water he can reach. Mostly he endures, hour after uncountable hour, in a cold he cannot escape, beside company he cannot bear to think about. Somewhere in those black hours, Harrison Okene does the arithmetic every trapped man eventually does. No one knows where he is. No one is coming for a cook in his underwear at the bottom of the sea. He thinks of his wife. He thinks of the phone ringing in their home before dawn, of her sitting up to a stranger's voice, of the single word about to be fastened to her name for the rest of her life, widow. So this is how it ends, he thinks. This is where I die. And then something in him refuses. There is no way out that he can see, and he reaches for none. What rises instead is a flat, stubborn no, lit somewhere beneath the fear. He is still breathing, and as long as he is still breathing, the verdict isn't final. So he keeps praying. He keeps the no burning. It is the only fire he has, and the dark is very large, and he feeds it one breath at a time. But the air he is breathing has begun to change. It is getting heavier, thicker, harder to pull down into his lungs, with a faint sour edge he can't name. He cannot see it or fight it. He only knows that every breath is a little more work than the last. And what Harrison Okene cannot know, alone in the dark, is that the danger was never the oxygen. The pressure has handed him plenty of that. The danger is the air itself. Every breath he lets out fills his shrinking shelter with more of the carbon dioxide his own body makes, and past a certain point that gas turns to poison with no color and no warning. It will dull him and slow him and put him to sleep, long before the oxygen ever runs low. A clock has been running since the ship went down, and Harrison Okene cannot see its hands. 100 feet above him, in the daylight world, they have already begun telling his wife the only thing anyone can say about a man trapped this deep, this long: he is not coming back. Up top, on the morning the Jascon 4 went down, the math is simple and brutal. A tugboat has capsized in heavy swell off the Nigerian coast. 12 men were aboard. The water is deep, the sea is rough, and as the hours stack up and no one surfaces, the count hardens. 12 men missing, and soon enough, 12 men presumed dead. That number lands first on the people who love them. The phone rings in Okene's home before dawn. His wife answers in the dark, and a voice she has never heard says the words too carefully. "I'm calling about the Jascon 4. I'm very sorry. The boat went down with all hands." She sits up in a bed that has, in a single sentence, become too large. The last thing she sent him was that psalm, typed out so he could read it at sea. Now she is being told he is dead. She says his name into the room. The room does not answer. By daylight, she is making the calls no one is ever ready to make. His mother, his brothers, saying it over and over until Harrison is gone, stops sounding like words, and starts sounding like the rest of her life. What makes it unbearable is that she is not being lied to. By every rule the ocean has ever followed, her husband is dead. A man overboard in cold water has hours. A man trapped inside a sunken hull 100 feet down has minutes. The cold and the foul air see to that. No one in that business has ever watched this end with a man alive after a day. After 2, the idea is almost obscene. The experts know it, the families are told it, and the world, gently and reasonably, closes the book on the crew of the Jascon 4. So the operation quietly changes its name. It stops being a rescue. Nobody announces it. There is no villain, no cruel signature on a form. It just shifts, the way these things always shift, from saving the living to recovering the dead. A commercial dive team is brought in to go down to the wreck and bring up what is left of the crew. Before they drop, the brief is as plain as the work itself. There are no survivors. Recover the bodies. 100 feet down, in a 4-foot pocket of sour, thickening air, Harrison Okene is alive, praying, shivering, refusing, one stubborn breath at a time, to die. 100 feet up, decent and capable men are zipping into dive suits with the calm of people doing a sad, routine job, collecting human cargo. His. None of them goes into the water expecting a miracle because miracles are not in the job description, and after this many hours, neither is hope. Neither side can see the other. The cook below has no idea anyone is coming. The divers above have no idea anyone is left. 2 certainties sealed off from one another, sliding toward the same point in the dark. The team checks the gear. The hoses hiss. The lead diver goes over the side and drops through the black water toward the only man on the whole crew still breathing, certain, like everyone above him, that he will find nothing but a corpse. The lead diver drops through the dark toward the wreck. He does this for a living, dropping into sunken ships to bring out the people who drowned in them. His lamp throws a narrow cone of light a few feet wide before the water swallows it. Beneath him, the Jaskin 4 takes shape out of the murk, enormous and wrong, lying on her back in the seabed mud like a dead animal rolled belly up. Floors are ceilings. Doorways hang sideways. Everything trails loose cable and torn steel. When he speaks to the surface, his voice comes back high and warped. At this depth, the divers breathe a helium mix that pitches every word into a thin, squeaking, almost cartoon sound. He works through it anyway, steady, slow. He finds an opening in the upturned hull and pushes inside. And inside, the little light he had is gone. The water is black. He works by touch now, gloved hands reaching ahead into nothing, feeling along surfaces his mind can't map. A pipe, a railing, a drift of fabric. Then his hand closes on something soft and heavy and unmistakable, and he knows what it is before the lamp confirms it. A body. The first of the drowned crew, loose in the flood. He marks it, moves it, and works deeper into the maze, feeling blind through the black for the next. On the surface, the support crew listen to him work. The squeaking reports come up the line. Another body located, slow progress through the hull. And they log each one and wait, braced for the full count. Nobody up there is hoping for more, because at this point, hope would only be another kind of cruelty. 100 feet down, Harrison Okene has lost the thread of time entirely. By the rough count, it has been close to 2.5 days. He is barely himself anymore, a cold, starving thing clinging to a shelf of debris in the black, dragging at air that fights him with every breath. He stopped expecting anything a long time ago. And then, through the steel and the water and the fog in his own skull, he hears a sound that does not belong. Metal, knocking against metal, faint but steady and patterned, made by something that chose to make it. After days of nothing but the groan of the hull and the small wet sounds of the sea working at his crew, a noise with a mind behind it, a human noise. He doesn't let himself believe it. He has been alone long enough to know the mind conjures rescuers out of nothing. But he moves anyway. He gropes for something solid, a piece of metal, his own bare fist, and swings it against the hull with everything he has left. Boom, boom, boom. He hammers and listens and hammers again. Every blow spends air he can't afford, and he throws it away gladly, because if there is one chance in 1,000 that the knocking is real, that someone living is out there in the black, then this is the only hand he has ever been dealt, and he shoves all of it into the middle of the table at once. Up in the wreck, the diver stops. Did he hear something? Or his own movement, ringing back off the steel? Inside a flooded hull, every motion echoes. He has been clanging through this labyrinth for long minutes. He sweeps the cabin with his hands and his failing light. Bodies, wreckage, the slow drift of the water. He finds exactly what he came to find, and not one piece of it is alive. There is nothing here. There is no one here. He turns to leave, and below him, Harrison Okene hammers into a silence that gives back nothing. He hits the hull and waits. Nothing. He hits it again, harder. Nothing at all. The knocking he was so sure of has dissolved back into the dark, the way the rescue ship dissolved for every other man who ever died waiting on one. Of course there is no one. Of course. He is 100 feet down inside a tomb the entire world has already sealed shut, and the small, stubborn flame he has guarded for 60 hours finally gutters and goes out. His arm drops. He sags back into the debris and lets the cold and the dark take him. So this is it then. After everything, this is how it ends. His mind is going soft and warm at the edges, the cold talking, the bad air talking, and some far-off part of him knows it and cannot make itself care. The diver is already moving away. His trailing hand drags back through the flooded cabin and brushes against something in the black, soft, yielding. Another body, his mind tells him. One more of the dead to mark and move. He reaches for it the way he has reached for all the others, fingers closing in to take hold and pull it free, and the body closes its hand around his wrist. What do you do 100 feet down in a flooded graveyard when one of the dead reaches back and will not let go? The diver screams. It comes out in that thin helium squeak, almost comic, but his body is already recoiling. He wrenches backward, boots scrabbling against the steel, heart slamming, every instinct shrieking the one rule that just broke. The dead do not grab back. He pulls hard. The grip does not let go. It tightens. Then it moves, squeezing, hauling at him, alive. And in the half-second it takes his mind to catch up to his body, the impossible rearranges itself into something true. The thing holding his wrist is a man, down here in the wreck, in the dark, 100 feet under the Atlantic, 2.5 days after the sea swallowed this ship whole. A man, alive. He shouts it up the line. 100 feet of hose carries the frantic, squeaking words to the deck. There's a man alive down here. He's alive. He's alive. On the surface, the deck goes dead silent, and then it erupts. Men who came to work a body recovery, who counted 12 dead and braced for a long, grim day of hauling them up, are suddenly shouting over each other, because the thing crackling up out of the water is the one thing none of them came prepared to hear. Someone on the bottom is alive. And in the dark below, Harrison Okene will not let go. For 60 hours, every surface he touched was cold. Cold steel, cold water, the cold of his drowned friends. Now there is warm rubber under his fingers and something on the other end of it that pulls back. He clamps down on it like the edge of the world. Everything turns on this moment. The verdict the whole world had already reached, 12 dead, the cook included, is wrong, and now at last, one man on earth knows it. And then comes the cruelest turn of all. They have found him alive, and they cannot bring him up. Not now. Pulling Harrison Okene to the surface from here, the fast way, the wrong way, would kill him as surely as the sea ever meant to. He has survived 60 hours that should have been impossible. Now the rescue itself is the thing most likely to kill him. 60 hours under 100 feet of water does something to a body, and it is about to nearly kill Harrison Okene at the very moment he is found. Down there, the air he's been breathing has been pressed on him at roughly 4 times surface pressure. For 2.5 days, that pressure has been driving gas, nitrogen, into his blood and tissues, packing it in, dissolving it through every part of him. As long as he stays deep, it stays dissolved and harmless. But haul him straight up into the daylight, and all of it comes fizzing out at once, like a bottle shaken and then uncapped. Bubbles boiling through his blood and lodging in his joints. Divers have a flat little name for it. The bends. It can cripple a man. It can kill him screaming. After everything he has endured, the fast trip up he is desperate for would be the thing that finishes him. So they cannot simply pull him out and let him breathe the sky. Instead, they fit a diving helmet over the head of the cook in his underwear and walk him, slow, careful, step by step, out of the wreck that nearly became his coffin, and up into a diving bell still held at the crushing pressure of the seabed. And then they seal him into another steel box. The man who just survived 60 hours trapped in one sealed chamber on the ocean floor can only be saved by being shut inside a second one, a decompression chamber, where, over the better part of another 2 days, the pressure will be bled off him by tiny, patient degrees, slow enough to let his body give up all that gas without tearing itself apart. One sealed tomb he survived by pure accident. The next one he has to survive on purpose, just to come home. So Harrison Okene holds on a while longer in his second box, on the long, slow climb back to the surface of the world. And the news is already climbing ahead of him. It runs up the dive line to the deck, off the ship to shore, phone to phone, until it reaches the bed that a single sentence had made too large. The cook is alive. The woman who typed out a psalm for him, then spent 2.5 days learning to be a widow, is told she can set the word back down. Her husband is coming home. When the chamber finally opens and lets him out into the air and the light, truly free for the first time in days, the man who steps out is not the same one the sea swallowed. What are you supposed to do with the rest of a life, once the whole world has already buried you? There is a cost to a story like this, and it would be a lie to leave it out. 11 men did not come home. Harrison Okene knew nearly all of them. He had cooked their last meal. He had felt 3 of them sweep past him in the first seconds of the flood, close enough to touch, gone before he could do a thing. Then he had spent the better part of 3 days sealed in the dark beside the bodies of the rest, listening to the sea take them apart. He came up alive. they did not. That is not a clean victory. That is a wound a man carries. By his own account, the years that followed were hard in the way survival is always hard. He could not sleep. He would lie down beside the wife who had already been handed his death once and feel the bed tilt and sink beneath him, the whole room going under, and snap awake back inside the wreck. The question that hunts every soul survivor hunted him too. Why me? Why the cook? The lowest man aboard, and not the 11 who knew the sea far better than he ever did? For a long time he swore he would never go near deep water again, and who could blame him? And then he did the last thing anyone would expect. Harrison Okene went back. The cook who had been dragged half dead off the seabed, trained and qualified as a commercial diver. The very same work as the men who reached into the dark and found his living hand. He went down into the deep that had drowned his ship and his crew and nearly buried him, and learned to work there. Think about what that helmet meant. The first time the world lowered one onto Harrison Okene's head, it was to walk a dead man out of his own tomb. The next time, he reached for it himself, buckled it under his own chin, and stepped off the deck into the same black water that had swallowed his ship and his crew, and very nearly him. That is the whole story compressed into a single gesture. The ocean handed down its verdict on the cook. The cook put on the helmet, went back down, and overruled it. Everyone standing on that deck had been reasonable. Everyone had the experience and the math on their side, and every one of them was sure he was dead. The only person who refused the verdict was the man they had already written into the past tense, and he turned out to be the one who was right. So if something has already decided how your story ends, the people, the odds, the quiet math that says you are finished, remember a half-naked cook breathing in a 4-foot pocket of air at the bottom of the Atlantic, hammering on the hull of his own coffin because some stubborn part of him would not sign off on dying. The verdict is never final until you agree to it. If this story stayed with you, take a second to subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep telling them. And if you think the ocean floor is the farthest edge a person can be dragged back from, wait until you meet the man who survived months alone in a drift, with the entire sea working to finish him. That story is on screen now.